That's where still to this day, our core foundation for the way that we invest our clients' money is still, believe it or not, derived from what we learned at that course. They've been teaching it
I
that way.
absolutely believe it.
Yeah. They've been teaching that way for decades and decades and decades. So it's very foundational to our strategy. And so we've actually even built out an investment management group within it. That's what sparked the whole thing. I couldn't find one that I felt confident sending to a client. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write it myself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put in paper what I would want to tell, things I've told clients over 19 years now, over and over and over again. I'm going to put it in a book.
Yeah.
And that's what sparked it. So I was a new broker trying to open a new office. And I was out there literally going door to door, pitching mutual funds, right? To people, literally, Mike, I would knock on your door and pitch this. I did it a lot. And credit, by the way, credit to Edward Jones Broker, because the people that do that are extremely hard workers to make that happen.
Can you talk about sort of what your typical sort of ideal client is? In other words, where do they come from? What have they experienced? Just so the people that are listening to this can go, oh, well, that sounds like me.
Yep. We alleviate the pain. So we like to look at where somebody is today and where they want to be. And it's that nasty, messy middle where they don't know how to get there, Mike, where they have question marks.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NewCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Jake Falcon, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about this amazing book that you wrote called Retire Right. We want to talk about this company that you built, Falcon Wealth Advisors, right? And we want to talk about specifically kind of how you're adding value to your clients and how you're helping them with financial planning and wealth building and the whole thing. So thanks again for being here.
Mike, I'm super excited to talk to you today. And thank you for having me.
So where were you born?
So I was actually born in Kansas City, Missouri, but I didn't grow up here where my company is today. So at a young age, I moved to Nebraska. My dad got a job in Nebraska and Beatrice, right outside of Lincoln. So I became a Husker fan pretty early on.
Yeah.
And then I eventually grew up in West Texas, in a tiny oil town called Borger, which is outside of Amarillo, if you're familiar with the Texas Panhandle.
Yeah.
Mike, have you watched that show Landman?
Yeah.
It's very similar to that. I don't know
One
about
of my favorite shows.
It's really good. I don't know anything about the drug cartels, but I'll tell you the oil patch, that stuff is real. I was a kid, but my dad and my mom both worked for Phillips 66 refinery, and they've got a big refinery in West Texas. And that's where I grew up. One high school, great small town, really good people, honest people. Football is king, all the things that you would envision of a West Texas town, but that's where I grew up.
So I was born in Ponca City, Oklahoma, which is the world headquarters of Continental Oil Company.
Yep.
Phillips 66 bought them out a few years ago and moved the headquarters from Ponca City over to for Conoco over to Bartlesville, to their headquarters. So so I've got my grandfather had 12 oil wells on his place.
Oh,
so I grew up in the oil patch, a smaller oil patch, but I grew up in the oil patch.
So you get it.
The whole landman thing is just like, wow. You know what I mean? It's like, crazy. And it really is more accurate than people realize. I mean, it's really, it got me, right? Absolutely got me. I don't know if you've watched all the episodes, but
no, don't spoil it. I'm not all the way done.
Yeah. So there's an episode where Jerry Jones from the Cowboys, owner of the Cowboys.
I've seen that clip.
Have you seen that? Okay.
I haven't seen it live. I haven't watched, I guess it's coming up, but I saw that what you're talking about.
Brought me to tears.
I've heard about that.
Absolutely brought me to tears. So Yeah, if you get a chance to, you'll understand when you watch it. So anyway, love that show. Absolutely love it. So growing up in Nebraska, you're a Huskers fan. My son's a graduate of the University of Nebraska at Lincoln.
Sweet.
Huge
we got
Husker,
so much in common, Mike.
Huge Husker, right?
Yep.
So we drop him off at school for his freshman year. And I told him, I said, you're going to play Arkansas State here in a couple of weeks or next week. We bought you season tickets, right? And I said, so I'm going to be calling your football team, your former high school's football team game. So I'm going to tape the game, your game. Make sure you text me and let me know, because it's general seating, where you're sitting in relation to the Boneyard side. And he's like, Dad, why? And I'm like, because they cut away, when they do their cutaways, they do a thing to the student section. I want to see if I can catch you on TV. Dad, there's 91,000 people there. It's the third largest city in Nebraska when they play. They've been sold out since 1968. You're never going to find me. I'm like, just humor me. Just text me. Well, naturally he forgets. Okay.
Of course.
So I call him that next morning after, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting ready to turn the recording on. Where were you sitting in regard to the Dad, you'll never find me. Just humor me. Where were you sitting? 10 minutes into the recording, I stopped the recording and I called my wife over to the television. I said, there's your boy.
That's awesome.
No joke. And she goes, no, that's not him. I'm like, that's the kid you gave birth to 18 years ago, right? She took a photo of the screen, Jake. Took a photo of the screen.
Nice.
And texted it to him and said, is this you? And he goes, yep. So from that point on, when this kid tells people, he's like, look out, when my dad puts his mind to something,
it's gonna happen. That's awesome.
There's my Nebraska Cornhusker story, right? And he's a huge, obviously, because he's graduated from there now, and the whole thing. So he's Mr. Cornhusker Red. So you guys have that in common. That's very cool.
I'm a big Husker fan. I get it.
So growing up in Nebraska, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Well, in Nebraska, again, I was a little guy. I don't remember much. So, just my house and playing with toys. It was. So I was age 1 to 3. So I can't claim it.
Oh, 1 to 3. Okay. I thought you had been there a little bit longer. Sorry.
No, all I know though is that my dad, like watching Husker football games with my dad in Texas was so fun. Like Tom Osborne and that whole era.
Oh yeah. That was the grade 8 conference. We were actually part of that conference and they were our arch enemy. I think that's why my son chose to go there. I think he was trying to put his thumb in my eye. But,
fair enough.
We'll leave it at that, right?
Got it. Where'd you go? Cool. So you went to Arkansas State, or
no? Arkansas State just happened to be the team that they were playing the first game of the season, and it happened to be that following week. So we were headed home, and then later that week they were playing. So
who was your school? OU then?
OU.
Got it. Makes
absolutely 1,000%. Yeah, I from the time I was this tall, right? I was I played
City
football.
Makes sense.
But I played football, and me and all my friends wanted to play for Barry Switzer.
Yep.
And then it just got worse as I got older. I mean, now I'm 58 years old and I have an OU blanket on my bed that I sleep under every night. Okay. I'm a 58-year-old man with a blankie. It's a little emasculating, but hey, it is what it is, right?
That's right.
And I start classes at OU in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Well, good luck.
In 2 weeks, yeah. So I'm going back to get my bachelor's and get my master's. So crazy. So in Texas,
right?
What was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Just the learning. So in a small town, there's 13,000 people in this town that I grew up in.
Wow, it's tiny.
It's small, but what you learn is that reputation matters and your word matters.
Yeah,
because it is very quickly. Like sometimes you get labeled for the wrong reason in those towns, but sometimes you get labeled for the right reason. Mm-hmm. And so not only did my parents do a good job of instilling values in me to begin with, but there's a lot of pressure there to say, hey, if you have to have integrity, because otherwise your name is everything in that town. And so that's probably what I value. And then it was just simple. Now I live in Kansas City, which is a great city and I love it. And I was born here, but with one high school and one or two grocery stores, like it's just simple and it's easy, and I think you get away with a little bit more when you're a kid in a town like that. And you're a little bit sheltered from the real world a little bit. So I did appreciate that. Now, but it's clear though, it's oil town. So it's not like it's, it's not like it's Mayberry and everything's perfect. It's rough. And you learn that too. So, but I really, really liked it. But I'm a big golfer. I didn't play golf in college, but I've been playing since I was 12 and I'm, 44 years old now. So I wanted to go somewhere warmer in a big city. And that's, I ultimately went to college at the University of Texas, San Antonio, the Roadrunners.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So UT was intimidating just going from a small school in town to UT scared me.
UT's huge, man.
It is huge. Yeah. And again,
it's one of the largest in the country.
Yeah, they're big. So,
yeah.
And I'm a Husker fan, so I never was a UT fan. So I didn't really care about that. And Texas Tech was a little too close to home for me. So I chose UTSA, which ended up being a great decision and a great school to go to. So that's where I went after Borger San Antonio.
That's cool. So a question for you. Growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Yeah, it has to be. You probably hear this all the time, Mike, but it has to be my parents. My parents are very similar and very different, which was, I think, why they had such a great marriage, is that they were aligned on the big things. But, I'm probably more like my father, that he's just kind of like, go, go, go. But my mom had such a laid back, kind of whimsical attitude about things and a quirky sense of humor, almost a gullibleness to her, I think that blended kind of who I am today. But that was definitely influential to me. And then I would probably say next would be just teachers in high school. I think if you're talking about that demographic, I had some really good teachers that influenced me, and my golf coach I thought was a great kind of mentor to me. Even though I wasn't the best guy on the team, I still saw him as someone to look up to.
So you played on the golf team all through high school?
I played on high school. Yeah, I played in high school. I was gonna try to walk on in college, but instead I joined a fraternity, and you know how that goes. And student government. I was like, not gonna golf. I'm gonna stick with the fraternity.
Are you serious that drinking beer is not an Olympic event? Come on.
Yeah, it should have been. It should have been. We would have been pretty good. Our
you might have been an alternate, right?
yeah. We'd have been pretty good. So that the golf career ended pretty quickly, which I'm thankful for. Again, I wasn't probably good enough to pursue it seriously. I mean, I was single digit handicap shooting in the 70s, but not like these kids today are crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable how good golf has gotten. So I joined a fraternity. Unreal. Yeah, got really involved on campus, which was awesome. UTSA had 20,000 students. Now I think they have 30,000. So,
wow.
But it was easy. It was easy to be a big fish there because it was still very much a commuter school. So if anybody was raising their hand to get involved and do stuff, the faculty really embraced you as someone that helping make that school traditional. In fact, they didn't even have a football team when I was there. It just was basketball. Yeah. Wow. And now their football team's pretty good. And
they're actually getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not a bad football, but they didn't even have it, believe it or not. They didn't even have a football team. So
that's wild. Yeah. So question for you. You mentioned some teachers that were favorites of yours in high school. Did you have a favorite subject in high school?
In high school, I was in honors, like pretty much across the board,
cool.
Which is interesting. A lot of people say that are in, like, I'm in finance, obviously. So a lot of people would say math was my favorite subject. And I would say I actually liked English and math the same.
Yeah.
And history. I was kind of like, I wasn't the top at everything, but I was above average across the board. I liked teachers that challenged me in a good way, not in a punishing way. So like my chemistry teacher, I thought she was awesome. Like, because we're experimenting, like, even though I'm not a big science guy, like, I just liked her attitude about her openness to experimenting. And like, even my art teachers were fun, that, you could express yourself. And I remember they gave us this huge pile of wood and they were like, just make something out of it. Like, and I made this thing, and I'm an immature high school kid, and I called it the shack, and it just looked like a gazebo, but I got like third place. This finance guy got like third place in the art, whatever. And they put my little artwork in the library, the school library. And I thought that was so cool that that little stuff, cool. Like that little stuff stuck with me, that just teachers that were open. I remember my AP English teacher, she was really awesome. And just the creative stuff that she had us doing. So again, I just, some of those memories stick out for me.
Amazing how teachers can affect you.
They're underpaid because I always say this, they are molding the young minds of America. And I wouldn't say screw a kid up would be bad, but like you can do more harm than good. Like if you get a bad teacher in there, you could, for example, I love finance, and I'll go into this. Like in college, I had a finance class that really turned my corner on finance, like why I loved it. But if that teacher in college or professor wouldn't have been as good as they were or enthusiastic about it, I might not even be doing what I'm doing today. So you're right. I think teachers, they have a tremendous impact on people. And I think the good ones know that, but they're underpaid.
It's a huge responsibility, man.
Crazy. You couldn't pay me enough to do it. Don't get me wrong, because it's a hard job, but it's like you said, it's a huge responsibility.
I just became a professional teacher last month.
Congrats.
First time in my life. Absolute lifelong dream. So I'm actually an adjunct instructor for real estate for a local college here.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about it. The thing that excites me the most is having an opportunity to share with this new generation that's coming up, these young people, about what we look for in business, what we look for in real estate, what we look for in terms of standards and that type of thing. And really super excited. I feel like I've been prepared my entire life for this. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Good for you. And that academia needs more guys like me and you in there. I did the same thing, by the way. I just did this for my UTSA.
Yeah.
I just taught an honors college program. I did it virtually. The class size was small, but I was so excited to talk about what a career in financial services look like. And then I helped these students who have the schools still aren't teaching personal finance. I taught them like what a Roth IRA is and how to manage your cash flow and all these things. And I got so much enjoyment out of that. I agree. But I love the fact that I didn't do this straight from college. Like I went and and you too got a lot of real world experience. And now we're sharing that. So I think I'm happy you're going to love it. I bet you're going to.
I'm super excited. I mean, I actually have been teaching there at that college as a volunteer, as a guest instructor for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy that now I'm, and the reason I'm going back to school is I'm going to be taking over the business department at this college in 2 years. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So I'm just beyond honored, So let's talk about the finance professor that really kind of captured you at UTSA.
All right. Let me give you a quick backstory. So this is so weird how this worked. So I grew up and Nintendo was the old school Nintendo was the thing, right? You're a little older than me, but you probably played it. I bet you played Nintendo, Mike, at some point. Maybe not. So Nintendo had this game called Wall Street Kid, which very few people know that there was a game out there. And I don't think I even owned this game. I would go and rent it at a place called Hastings, which was like a Blockbuster in Texas. And this game, you would think I was the dorkiest kid ever. I was a little kid, and you would pick stocks, you would read the newspaper, you would have to exercise, you would have to take your wife on dates, or all the world would crash around you.
Oh, wow.
So I was a little kid playing this Wall Street Kid game, right? And my parents worked at an oil refinery, right? So they weren't finance people really. So I loved that game. And then I went to college. I was going to be just general business, and I wanted to be a golf pro at a country club because I grew up at a golf course, right? So I was like, well, you know what? I get to be around golf. I like golf. I could teach golf. I could run a pro shop. That's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then I went and worked at a very nice country club in San Antonio in college, and talk about impressions on people. And nothing against these guys, but the assistant pros at this country club looked to me, like they hated their lives.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like they were just working all the time. They weren't making much money. And they weren't like super negative to me, but I was like, I don't know.
You don't see the joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, and the reality is that if you want to be the head honcho, if you want to be the head pro of a really nice golf club, there's only so many of those to go around. So it's very, very limited field to do that. And, me just kind of popping off as an immature kid knew that I probably wasn't political enough to get me that good job at a nice country club. So that's when I pivoted. And then at the same time, I took a summer class in college because I just was having fun in San Antonio. I was like, why go back home when I just stay in school and take classes all year? So this finance class was like 2 or 3 hours long because it was a summer class.
Right.
And I think it was like 4 or 5 days a week. And I was nerding out at this thing on the edge of my seat, financial calculator in one hand, pen in the other, just writing notes, following along with this guy explaining compound interest and the way bonds work and all the cool stuff. And I was like, man, this is so fascinating to me because the math was challenging enough to try to use my financial calculator to understand it. But then what was really cool is you could apply this to real world people and enhance their lives through investing, like, bond versus 3 versus 4% or a REIT or whatever. And so I just thought it was super cool. And that drastically influenced kind of the direction that I wanted to go. I didn't know it then at that point because I still wasn't a finance major, but that drastically influenced the direction I ended up going.
Was this instructor or this professor particularly enthusiastic?
Yes, I felt that in because it was, it's a summer in San Antonio are hot.
Yeah.
And you would think it'd be a sleepy class, but no, he had enthusiasm. The guy was brilliant. And I was immature, so I should have taken more time to get to know him or stay in contact with him. But I just remember after that class, I was like, wow, that's been my favorite class in college the whole time.
Oh, that's cool.
And it still was my business finance. It still was my favorite. At all the hours I took, that one finance class was my favorite one.
So I have a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh.
What's one of the top colleges, universities in the nation for PGA pros?
It's Nebraska, isn't it?
It's Nebraska.
I thought it was Nebraska.
Isn't that wild?
They have a great PGM program. In fact, there's a guy that works on my team that went through that PGM program. That's how I know about it.
That's awesome.
He went through that program, and same situation. He was like an assistant GM at a nice club, but he's married. He's got 3 kids. He's like, I don't want to be working holidays and weekends forever and these long hours. And so we were lucky to kind of cross paths with another team member at the time. But yeah, he did that. He did the PGM program. It's a great program.
Isn't that wild? So
it is weird.
My son was applying to college, and from some friends of some friends, we met this lady that her son was literally in the process of graduating from University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and he was in that PGA or PGM program, right? And she was telling us how unbelievably awesome it was. Michael had no interest in Michael was a mechanical engineer major, but he didn't have any interest in the PGA thing. But she was talking about how amazing Nebraska was, right? And really, I think her enthusiasm about her son's experience there was a big part of why my son even applied. Then he applies and he finds out 4 days after applying that he's been accepted. They send him a FedEx package with a Nebraska banner like this. You know those banners, right?
Yeah.
And it has Nebraska. It's red, and it's got Nebraska in big white letters, all capitals, right? And he puts it on the mantle in the house.
I bet you hated that.
So the next morning I come down and I see it, and I turn it to where you can't see the Nebraska letters, just the red felt, right? And he comes down and he looks at the banner, he looks at me, he looks at the banner, he looks at me, and he goes, and I said, listen, you're really fortunate. And he goes, why is that? And I said, because I know where they keep the flamethrowers here. He very quietly went over, picked it up, and I never saw it again.
You're like, hey, this is an OU house. I'm happy for you, son.
Just so we're clear, right? He was not the least bit unclear about that, just so we're right. And awesome. So he had sort of this smirk on his face, right? The following day, he gets a phone call from a recruiter at UNL that literally graduated from the high school that my son attended and my daughter attended and graduated from.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of the smallest schools in California. Okay. Tiny little charter school. And how in the world this kid ended up going from charter high school so it all sort of fit,
That's awesome.
And it just, he couldn't have gone to a better place. It was like the whole state of Nebraska just opened up their arms and gave him a big
welcomed
hug,
him. Yeah, that's great.
They fed him everywhere he went. I mean, he was loved on the entire time he was there. So
that's good.
Great experience for him.
Yeah, it's good school.
So you graduate from college.
I did. Yeah.
Where do you go?
Yeah. So I believe it or not, I didn't start in finance. Looking back, it's okay that I didn't, but I
believe it.
Yeah. So I still had a girlfriend in college. We didn't end up getting married, but she was younger than me. So I kind of hung around San Antonio, and one of my fraternity brothers worked at Enterprise, believe it or not, to rent a car.
Yeah.
And they hire a ton of college graduates right out of school.
Yes, they do.
So for a guy kind of waiting on this girlfriend, see if that's going to pan out, don't have a finance degree and needed a job because it's like mom and dad's like, look, you graduated and you're not just going to sit around. So So I got in with their management trainee program, which was fantastic. Great company. I was there about a year and a half. Her and I broke up. So I was like, okay, free. Don't need to wait on that. And at that point, I walked into an Edward Jones office in Santa, just cold walked in, asked to talk to the broker, and I asked him, what do you do and do you like it? That was it. That was my foot in the door. I literally created my own foot in the door, and the gentleman was super nice to me. He explained kind of what he did, and he's like, "Could you ask someone for $10,000?" I'm like, "Sure, I don't care. Yeah, it's their money. I'm just investing it." He made it sound like that was a big deal. I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I can do that. Whatever."
Some people have a hang up about that.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't. I was like, "Yeah, whatever. If I want to be an investment advisor, then I'm going to ask people for the money. I understand that."
So I can grow it, right? Yeah,
exactly. So, but again, so the reset button was getting hit. Like I had no roots in San Antonio other than my friends from college. My parents lived in West Texas, but I was born in Kansas City. So when I interviewed at Edward Jones in Texas, I said, I want to work for your company, but I want to move to Kansas City. And they were fortunate enough to give me that opportunity to relocate to Kansas City and start working at Edward Jones. And that was my first job in finance. That was back in 2006, I believe. Yeah.
I love that story. I just have a quick question. So my cousin worked for Enterprise for like 20 years.
Good for them.
What was it about Enterprise that you liked? And what was it that made you decide to walk into that Edward Jones office?
Yeah, I liked my area manager said it to me best, that it's like you basically have the opportunity for entrepreneurship with zero liability, because once you got through that management trainee program, they kind of let you run your store the way you wanted to run. I mean, you had company guidelines, but you were marketing, you were training, you were selling, you were managing profit and loss. Like, so that appealed to me a lot. Like you learn how to run a business, which they don't teach you that in school.
No.
So that education was valuable. I'm a car guy. Like I like cars, and I was intrigued with the car business, but the difficulty with that darn business, and I feel sorry, most of their business at the time was replacement, meaning people are walking into your store pissed off because they're gotten a wreck or their car's broken down and they don't want to be there. And then you're trying to upsell them and do things that they don't want to do. So and I worked at a very busy branch, and the phones would ring. It was very retail. I'm still retail because I'm working with clients, but it was just it was almost like being in an ER, frankly. Like it's just stuff getting thrown at you. And I didn't feel like what happened there was the same thing with the golf pros. Like my area manager's a great guy, but I didn't want at some point I didn't want his job.
Right.
So I knew I had to leave.
Yeah. You're looking at it going, that's not where I want to go.
Yeah. So that's why, as I was the writing, it's like, this guy was great. He had a company car. He managed several stores. I was like, I don't want to be dealing with putting out these fires for the rest of my career. And that's when I was like, I don't want to go down this road. Great company, great training program. By the way, Edward Jones has a great training program. I got very lucky. Both these St. Louis companies, but Enterprise is a great training program. But again, not for me. It wasn't a career. But good to your cousin, because
he ran three locations at one point. It was just
I believe crazy. He did.
Yeah, it was wild. And he's incredibly talented. He's now, by the way, in the financial advising space.
Good for him. It happens.
It took a while, right? It took a couple of decades, but he ended up, and part of it was they started having kids. Sure. And the kids started getting older, and it was like, okay, you're going to have to make some choices here. And so he ended up getting into the financial advising space, just like you were talking about before. The whole idea of working 7 days a week and evenings and weekends and all that just, wasn't working for him. So he was really working some long hours.
Yeah, they do.
So you make the decision to walk into Edward Jones. Can you talk about that for a second? Was it just that you wanted to be a financial advisor and that never left you, or was it, what was the mindset?
Yeah, no, I hit it was a reset. So I think triggering being single again, like really helped me start focusing on myself and my career. Gotcha. And I went back. It's like, what do you want? So I know I don't want to go down this path. So then it was like, well, what path do I want to go down to? And then I started thinking like, well, what was your favorite course in college? And you played this video. I remembered playing this video game when I was a little kid. I was like, I thought that was the coolest game ever. I was like, why don't I just walk in and see what this is about? I was like, if I don't want to go down the car business, let's go see what a stockbroker looks like. Because in the early 2000s, it was still kind of stockbroker. Some places were being stockbrokers and some were being advisors. So I wanted to see what that looked like and what that was about.
That's cool. So you moved to Kansas City. You go to work for Edward Jones. You had incredible training, like you said, right? At some point, you make the decision to go out on your own. How long did it take for you to make that decision?
Yeah, so there was a place in between going on my own. So
okay, sorry.
So Edward Jones, no, you're fine. Edward Jones was a great company. However, this was my experience. You got to remember this was 2006. That I felt like it wasn't. So they give you a lot of autonomy. Like I literally was working out of my basement. Like I didn't have an office, but I was a solo broker, right? They called it a new. So I was a new broker trying to open a new office. And I was out there literally going door to door, pitching mutual funds, right? To people, literally, Mike, I would knock on your door and pitch this. I did it a lot. And credit, by the way, credit to Edward Jones brokers, because the people that do that are extremely hard workers to make that happen. Same with enterprise, like you said, your cousin. So I always am open to interviewing former Edward Jones or enterprise people because I know how hard they have to work at those companies.
Exactly, right? They have to have real work ethic.
There's a girl on my team. She works in operations. We got her from enterprise because I knew what she went through because I went through. So anyways, but long story short, they assigned me a mentor, but I felt like I was, probably 25 years old. And I was like, I just felt too young to where I wanted more oversight. Like I was like going through the motions of what they were teaching me, and I was getting a little bit of clients here and there, but like I wasn't thriving, and I felt like I was just kind of like treading water. And I'm like, I want somebody that's gonna like take me under their wing more. And so another cold call, I called UBS, which is a large Swiss bank.
There you go. Yeah.
They were on the plaza, which is kind of our nice part of our town.
Love the plaza.
Yeah.
Love it.
They had an office on the plaza. I'm like, I'm just going to call them and say I'm a licensed broker or whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I want a mentor. I want some structure and mentorship. And so they had a great sales manager, and I went through a ton of interviews with them. And I got very lucky that an advisor had a big team. He's a big advisor with a big team that was looking to bring on another junior person. And so he brought me in, and instead of door knocking, I cold called, which was much easier to just call someone. But he had a much more structured planning and investment process that really gave me that structure I needed. And I worked there for 10 years, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked there for a decade. Now, him and I split off during that time, which was a whole nother story. Like, great guy, again, great mentor. But what had happened is that he was more of a vertical team, and I was trying to truly become his partner. And he's like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, I'm trying to be like you because like, I admire the business that you've grown. He's like, yeah, but I don't. So we ended up breaking apart, and it was just fine. But I had basically had a team under his team that we split. And so we had two different teams. Mine was much smaller, of course, because he's a bigger advisor. But then we took that team and grew it. And then eventually my team left UBS and started our own company. So that's kind of how it all worked. But I was there a decade. And I would encourage anybody like that. I learned so much from that 10 years of what to do and what not to do. All the things. I grew up. I was in my mid-20s to my mid-30s, and that's a really good time to learn the business. And it was worth it to me to do that.
Yeah, I've got a friend that actually works for UBS out here. And
great company.
Absolutely loves it.
Great company. And you know what? The only straw, the two things. One, I have a problem with authority. It's just the reality. I'm meant to be my own boss.
At least you admit it.
I admit it. I have a big problem with it.
Most of us are in denial.
No, I admit it. I had a problem. My managers probably loved me at times and hated me. This guy, he obviously didn't like me in the end when we went our separate ways, like because he moved me off his team. But and then I think it was 2015 or 16, the Department of Labor was coming out, and they were saying if you're advising on retirement accounts, you need to be acting in a fiduciary capacity. And they were looking to mandate that. And so basically they were looking to remove all commissions from retirement accounts, which I actually fully embraced and thought that was a good idea. However, my manager at the time communicated that like UBS does not necessarily agree with that. And we're fighting against that for whatever rhyme or reason, not making them bad or good, but we weren't aligned with that.
Yeah.
And so not only was I a little bit forced to kind of adhere to their rules as an employee, which makes sense, I also had this problem. I had a problem with, they didn't give me the clients, Mike. I went and found the clients, yet they still told me what to do. And that was a real problem for me. That's my problem with authorities. That like, if they would have handed me over a roster of clients and said, we want you to service these clients, that's completely different. But no, day one, they said, hey, Jake, you've got a 4-year training program. We're going to measure you every quarter or 6 months. And if you're not hitting your quota, we're going to fire you. And that was the program I went in. So it was like, well, I passed that program and now you're still telling me what to do. Like and I get it. Great bank. That's their structure. And I would probably have a similar structure here. I'll probably have a similar one here as I grow it out. But at that time, it just didn't work for me. So I have a business partner, Corey, who's younger than me. He's 35 or 36. And then Samantha, who we've since made a partner, she was basically our assistant. The three of us and a few other people in 2016 is when we left UBS and started Falcon Wealth Advisors with the whole fiduciary. We want to answer to our clients. The people that are paying us is who we want to answer to. And that's it. And that was the whole premise of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So you did it on principle more than anything else.
It was. And you know what? We took a loan. I got dangled some big paychecks to go to other companies. But we actually took out a loan to go do what we did, which is not popular. Not a lot of people do that because in finance, you can get a pretty big bonus check if you go somewhere else. But I said, no, we're going to take out a loan. We do have a company that's great out of Chicago called Hightower that does all of our back office support. But they don't own our equity and we're not employees, but they help with compliance and technology and legal, which has been great, a great partnership. But they didn't give us any money. We borrowed it basically.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was 9 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. 9 years ago this year. Yep.
So
December will be 9 years.
We're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about everything you're doing with Falcon Wealth Advisors. We're also going to talk about this book you wrote called Retire Right. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Jake Falcon with Falcon Wealth Advisors. Before the break, we were talking about sort of how you got to Falcon Wealth Advisors and sort of the progression, right, that took place in your life and your career. And what a great story. What's interesting to me is you make this decision to go to Falcon Wealth or to start Falcon Wealth Advisors with your partners more out of principle than anything else, which is, I think, rare, unfortunately, too rare these days. Yeah. And like you said, you had to take a loan out to do it versus, taking a big bonus to join another company and that kind of thing, or competitor. I've been in that situation where I was offered those types of, signing bonuses, that kind of thing. And it just wasn't a fit for me, right? I ended up going out and doing my own thing. I did fine. And I did it more out of principle than anything else, right? And it's like, it feels better. And you have an opportunity to sort of put your stamp and your values on what it is on the organization you're building. So that was 9 years ago. What has been your single favorite thing about owning Falcon Wealth Advisors?
Just really being able to change the company to align with our clients' interests and not having to tell my clients no.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain, like, I have to follow regulations and rules and law, but not having to say, I'm sorry, our bank just doesn't allow that, sir or ma'am. So I love the fact that we've been able to change the company to align with our clients' interests and grow it. And now it's teaching the next generation. I mean, we went from having 5 or 6 of us, Mike, to there's 18 of us now. Wow. And so we went from having $200 million and, around 200 clients to almost $1 billion
Wow.
and, around 900 clients. And so that's been awesome. Like the clients that I've met, first off, the clients that stuck with us and came with us when we started our company I can never thank them enough. And then all of the new clients that we've helped since then, and then teaching my team on how to help and service and advise clients is awesome, because I can't do it without the people I surrounded myself with.
Yeah, that's
It's awesome.
really, really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Can we take just a second and talk about, so when you were at UBS, you had a particular role, right? Wealth advisor. When you started Falcon, you mentioned that you went to a different model, which was a fiduciary model. For people that don't know the difference, can you take just a second and talk about the difference between, because I know the difference, but we're in 66 countries now worldwide. So
wow. Awesome,
yeah,
Mike.
and we're not even 2 yet. We're going to be 2 in a couple of days. 2 days. 2 days will be 2.
Wow.
340 plus episodes. Pretty wild.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. In 2 years. Yeah. I haven't slept much, but
you're on this a lot.
So wealth advisor
Yeah.
to fiduciary. Can you talk just for a second about that, the difference?
Yeah. The sad reality is it's still very confusing for the consumer.
Yes.
So I'm glad you asked. And again, neither are right or wrong, and neither are good or bad. And so when someone's acting in a fiduciary capacity, they typically have to have the Series 66 or Series 65 license. And when you have that license and you're advising in that capacity, you have to do what's legally in your client's best interest. Okay. So you have to put their interest ahead of your own. And if you do have conflicts of interest, it has to be fully disclosed. Right.
Okay.
And so that's what a fiduciary is. And that you can think of simply as like, if you go to a dietitian and they're going to talk about your diet and you want to lose weight, well, they're not trying to sell you meat or cake. They're just saying this is what you should eat, like, because this is what's going to be healthiest for you.
Right. This is what's in your best interest.
Exactly.
So fiduciary is a relationship of trust.
Yes.
We have the same thing in California in real estate, but I wanted to make sure that people understood that instead of being a wealth advisor and you're advising people on their wealth, right? You're actually a fiduciary. So there's a relationship of trust that you're legally bound to.
Yes. Yes. They could actually sue you.
I wanted to make sure there was a distinction there, right?
Yeah. And so the broker, which is Series 7 or Series 63, this is what's confusing. Their recommendations only need to be suitable, but not necessarily in your best interest. And then in those circumstances, they're normally charging a commission versus a fee. So here's the most confusing part, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I operated at UBS. For literally, if you're a client, you might have 3 accounts with me, and 2 of them I'm a fiduciary and 1 I'm a broker, believe it or not. And the clients now it's very like, it's disclosed on the statement, but in the end, this is a relationship business. So you hire me because you trust me, but I have different legal standards based on literally your account by account.
So you were wearing both hats.
Yes.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
And most of them do.
Wow.
And most of them do.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's super confusing. And again, it doesn't mean one's right or wrong, but you just, as a client, you need to understand. You need to
absolutely.
The question you ask is, are you fiduciary with all of my accounts all the time?
Right.
It's that simple. Like, because when they start, the red flag is if you have an IRA and your advisor splits that into 2 accounts, the big question is why?
Yeah.
Am I being charged the same? Are you acting in the same capacity on both? Because that's what they legally, I think, they could have changed this, but at the time it was, I believe you had to have a different, like an advisory account, and then there was a brokerage account, but they both could have been IRAs. So it's very confusing.
Is it fair to ask them, are you making the same amount? Like, how are you making your money on each account?
Yes, you should ask that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking because I know there are a lot of people out there that don't know whether that's even a fair question to ask or not.
You're right. And you know what, Mike? I meet with 50, between me and Corey. Corey and I are the 2 advisors on our team. Everyone's acting as a fiduciary. Like, I don't have anybody doing the different things, but Corey and I are the 2 advisories, and then we have a whole team supporting our clients. So between Corey and I, we meet with between 50 and 100 new potential clients every year. And I would say, I don't have the exact numbers, but I'd say 8 times out of 10, Mike, they have no idea what they're paying their advisor, or if their advisor is a fiduciary. And again, we need to change that as an industry. Like, that needs to change. And I work really hard on educating people on that, whether they work with me or not. It doesn't matter to me. they should at least know what they're getting and why they're paying what they are. And because I don't know anywhere else where and we're talking about thousands, when you work with high net worth clients, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in fees every year.
Yeah.
But some of these people don't realize what they're paying. So it's important to know that and how that advisor is operating. Because, I go to my car salesman. I know he's making a commission off me. Doesn't mean I don't like him, but I know he does not have my best interest at heart. And that's okay. I'm buying a car. Right. So I'm going to try to get the lowest price. He's going to try to get the highest price. We're going to meet in the middle and we move on. It's a transaction. But I'm not going to go to my car dealer like for expecting he or she to act in my best interest. I'm just not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you made a great point. It's incredibly important that people understand that they need to know.
Yes.
This needs to become a lot more transparent in the industry as to how the advisor gets paid, fiduciary, whatever, right? How are you paid? Are you, like you said, splitting accounts? Are you paid the same on each? Are they fiduciary? That kind of thing. Because it really does matter in terms of how they go about advising you. And you know that. You've lived this life quite a bit. So,
it changes,
it's incredibly important. So at some point you made the decision to write a book called Retire Right, which I think is amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
What was it that compelled you to write a book? And the reason I'm asking is there are people listening to this that are thinking about writing a book. We're pretty sure that there are 60 podcasts that have been inspired by this podcast. I don't know how many people have decided to write a book. A few people have communicated to me that they were inspired by our podcast to do that.
Good.
I know there are people listening to this that are thinking about it. Can you go into the mindset and what it was that made you decide to do this?
Yes. And by the way, it's extremely fulfilling experience, but it's not easy. So
it's not easy.
It's not easy. My wife, Mike, is an obnoxious reader. This girl, no joke, she reads probably 100 or 200 books a year, Mike.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
So her bad habits trickulated over to me, and I'm reading maybe 10 to 30 books a year now. So I started, as I'm reading more and more and more, I said, well, I talk about retirement for corporate executives all the time. I want to read the books that are out there. And as I started reading these books, Mike, I'm like, these are awful.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to find a book that I could send to all my executive clients as they approach retirement to say, hey, I read this. I think it's got a lot of good information in for you. But that's what sparked the whole thing. I couldn't find one that I felt confident sending to a client. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write it myself. Yeah. I'm just going to put in paper what I would want to tell, things I've told clients over 19 years now, over and over and over again. I'm going to put it in a book.
Yeah.
And that's what sparked it. And I went about it in a different way. Like, I have a podcast, not nearly as popular as yours. I'm hopeful. We've got over 300 episodes too. It's called Upticks.
Yeah.
And what I did, Mike, is I recorded a series of episodes, like chapters of my book, because I'm more of a talker than a writer.
Yeah.
And then I paid a local person to transcribe that into a rough draft for me. Then I took that to a publisher, and they helped me edit it and rearrange it and make it flow like a better book. And that's how I got to it. So I don't want book writing to intimidate people. There's a variety of ways you can go about doing it.
Absolutely.
You don't have to stare at a blank Word doc and say, okay, here we go. That made it a lot easier for me to get my content out there by just recording it on audio first.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea, especially for people that are more auditory than they are visual, right? I mean, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've talked through problems, talked through challenges, that kind of thing, and I come up with an idea while I'm talking.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, right? Where'd that come from?
Yep.
Yeah. So it is a way, I think, to solve problems and put things together. And yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do it rather than just necessarily putting a pen to paper, So,
right.
So you did it the auditory way where you basically, recorded it and had somebody transcribe it. How many episodes did you have them transcribe into a book?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I think it's probably maybe 10 if I had to guess.
Okay.
Maybe 10 episodes. And I made it like very specific, like this is what I want chapter 1 to be about. So I'm going to do a podcast on this and kind of rolled it out. And then
so it's like a monologue deal?
I've got my business partner, Corey, is on the podcast with me. So if I had to guess, he was probably on it with me, but he knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So he kind of let me dominate it a little bit, those episodes, so that we could get my content out there. Or I don't remember. I either did that or a monologue did. But then I've got great financial planners on my team. These are like, I think 3 of them now. 2 of them are CFPs and 1 just passed. And I had another guys help me along the way, but they helped fact check it for me, make sure all the numbers were exactly right. So they helped me edit for all the details in there. So it was a team effort, but not a lot. And then again, getting that rough draft, and then I can go in there and edit it. And it's easier to edit once you get the meat of it out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, real quick, you mentioned it, and I know it's an industry term, but for people that don't know, a CFP is a certified financial planner. Talk about why that's a big deal in your industry.
Yeah, so it's the cream of the crop when you want to work with somebody who's proven their technical savviness.
Right.
Believe it or not, I don't have it, and where I came from, they could care less if I had it. They cared about me getting clients, so I got really good at getting clients. I am a chartered retirement planning counselor, which is the retirement portion of the CFP, but the CFP is so much bigger. It covers tax, estate planning, insurance, retirement, and investments. And so. So as Corey and I were building out our practice, he's very similar to me. We both took a course at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. We both are chartered retirement planning counselors. Like that's what we did because that's our specialty. But we said, look, if we're going to hire these other planners to start meeting with our biggest and best clients, we want them to be CFPs so that they can go deeper into the weeds than he and I do. So I think it's important that you not necessarily need to work with the CFP, but whoever you're working with needs to have immediate access to somebody on their team.
Right.
Because it's just basically it's a proven technical savviness that they've proven that they are aware of the nuance of all those broad categories when it comes to financial planning. It's important.
Gotcha. So certified financial planner is definitely something that is a rarity, I guess, to an extent, right? It's the upper echelon of the industry, right?
It is.
And it's about technical knowledge, it sounds like, more than anything else, right?
Yes.
So can you talk for a second about Wharton? You mentioned that you all were, I think you did an executive type session with them, right? Okay. So can you talk about that for a second? Is it something that you would recommend for somebody?
Big time. Yes. That was a game changer. I did that a long time ago, but I took the investment strategies and portfolio management program. There was probably 40 or 50 people in my class. It was on campus and it was a week. It was an immersive week where we actually had real Wharton professors coming in and teaching us all these concepts on the way they see asset allocation and diversification and investment, different investment themes and how to track money managers. All the things that you'd want to know is it was amazing. And that's where still to this day, our core foundation for the way that we invest our clients' money is still, believe it or not, derived from what we learned at that course. They've been teaching it that way. I
absolutely believe it. Yeah.
They've been teaching that way for decades and decades and decades. So it's very foundational to our strategy. And so we've actually even built out an investment management group within it. So we don't use any products. We trade individual stocks and bonds, and we trade options. And I have 2 CFAs, which are chartered financial analysts, which that is the cream of the crop when you go into investments. So I've got the top designation for planners and I've got the top designation for investments all on my team. And but I've kind of set the guidelines all from Wharton, and then my traders take it from there, basically.
Wow, that's awesome. So I take it it's something you'd recommend if somebody's considering doing it.
Highly recommend. It's funny you brought that up. I think it was last night. I was like, I want to take another course at Wharton. So I went through their catalog to see they didn't have anything that was close enough to what I do on a day-to-day, but they've got a tremendous catalog of executive management programs. So whatever industry you're in, I thought it was awesome. I highly recommend. If you can find something that aligns, don't just do it to do it. Like it's got to line up. I'm sure there's stuff on real estate on there, Mike, I bet. But
there is.
Yeah. Have you done it?
No, but Harvard actually has a real estate program that they're teaching right now that I'm taking a look at. So and really the reason for the Harvard thing isn't necessarily anything except that my cousin just recently graduated from Harvard with her bachelor's degree.
That's awesome.
And it sort of put Harvard on my radar, right? And so I started looking around, and sure as all get out, there's a thing in there about real estate investing. Well, I started a real estate investment company earlier this year. So yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So
Awesome.
So if somebody's thinking about or needs help, and I can't imagine anybody that doesn't need help with this, but if somebody's in a position where they really need to have somebody take a second look at their portfolio, or they're thinking about getting into investing, maybe they haven't started an IRA, but they know they need to, that kind of thing, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's great. So I'm very active, believe it or not, on Instagram, Jake_Falcon_CRPC. Or they could just drop me an email too directly. It's simply jake@falconwealthadvisors.com. Either way are great. And we actually have our signature planning process, Mike. It's 2 meetings. They're confidential. They're complimentary. We'll take you through our kind of foundational planning process. We'll actually build a plan for you, review your portfolio if you have one. If you don't, we'll tell you kind of where you need to go to get started. And then at that second meeting, if you want to hire us to help implement some of our observations, we'll go over what it all costs. But the worst case, you walk away kind of at a checkpoint, knowing where you are today in life, and getting maybe a couple of different ideas or tips. And we do that happily. And that's why the team is what it is. Like, it's 18 of us. We've just hired 2 new professionals, so we have capacity for this, because it'd be impossible. I mean, I guess I could do it, but I probably wouldn't be married anymore. Like, if I was meeting with everybody all the time. So what I do now is I like to do that first meeting, by the way, as much as I can. Me or Corey, one of us, likes to do that first meeting, and then we kind of turn it over to our team and let them take it from there. But we love to do that. So we accept that graciously.
So here's a question for you. There are people that are listening to this and they're not sure whether they need your services or not. They're, maybe they have an investment accounts, maybe they don't. I mean, portfolio or not type thing. Can you talk about sort of what your typical sort of ideal client is? In other words, where do they come from? What have they experienced? Just so the people that are listening to this can go, oh, well, that sounds like me.
Yep. We alleviate the pain. So we like to look at where somebody is today and where they want to be. And it's that nasty, messy middle where they don't know how to get there, Mike, where they have question marks. And this could be, should I do Roth IRA or traditional 401k? When do I turn on Social Security? Should I take stock options or RSUs? I mean, that nasty, ugly middle is the pain point. That's where we solve. So, so if anybody's listening or watching this and they have a question mark or some pain in their finances, that's actually what we solve for. And yeah, we have to have certain amounts of money to formally open an account, because we can't serve everybody. But we will, at the minimum, go through that signature planning process. And Mike will tell people, hey, you're not at a point where it makes sense to pay us yet, but you should go do this at Vanguard or Schwab or wherever, right? Fidelity, it doesn't matter, like wherever. And this is our initial advice. Like we do that pro bono, because I started this business. I got in this business and I talked about the whole Wall Street kid in finance, but ultimately why I'm still here is to help people.
Yeah.
And helping people, even if I don't get paid, is okay. Now, we can't do that ongoing for free. We're not a nonprofit, but we can do those first 2 meetings and not charge anything, and at least put people in a little better position to one day come back and be clients.
Well, sort of set them on the right path, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing that I love about this is you made a decision 9 years ago out of principle.
Yep.
Right. And by the way, your entire life story is that, right? You're making decisions out of principle your entire life story. And the thing that I love the most is you're like, look, I've done the broker thing. I've done the fiduciary thing. I like the fiduciary thing better. Let's go do that. Right. And that's the thing that I think people what I believe will resonate with people when they're listening to this, that really this is about trust. Brokers are brokers, okay? Good, bad, or indifferent. And there are some amazing brokers out there. I'm not being negative about brokers, okay? There's just a difference. There's a difference between what a broker does and how they advise you. And by the way, some of it has to do with the commission that they make.
Right.
Okay. Versus a fiduciary whose job it is legally, like you said, to watch out for your best interest. Which would you rather have if you have a choice? And the beautiful thing about this is people have a choice now that they didn't know before this podcast that they had.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So if they reach out to you on Instagram, it's Jake_Falcon_
CRPC. Yeah.
CRPC.
Yep.
And then Jake at falconwealthadvisors.com. Question for you. What's an RSU?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
So it stands for restricted stock unit. So we have a particular tilt in corporate executives. Now we have a ton of business owners that we work with as well. But these corporate executives will get stock options, restricted stock units. So if they work at a publicly traded company, Mike, that's where we've worked with a ton of people in that situation.
So what's a restricted stock? They get the option, but they can't sell it until a certain time. That's the restriction?
Yes, exactly. So it's not even an option. So I kind of merged the two. So a stock option is basically a right to buy the shares over a certain vesting period.
Right.
A restricted stock unit is, you're exactly right. You actually have the stock, but you can't sell it. It vests over a certain time frame. So we help advise people on, do you hold it? Do you sell it? What are the tax implications? We do a lot of tax planning. And so figuring out all of that nuance as it correlates with their entire financial plan is what I was getting at. But a lot of people come to me, they say, I've got 5,000 RSUs, restricted stock units, Jake, I don't know what to do with them.
Right.
That's a pain point that we help solve.
Well, and let me just say this, because this is not, I haven't ever had stock gifted, given to me or whatever you want to call it, right? I haven't.
All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I did have a company that I was offered a very large amount of money for, cash. And I went to and I'm in California, of course, one of the highest tax states in the nation. What am I thinking, right? I need to be in Kansas, right?
Or Texas.
Right? Or Texas, right? Or Florida, right? I was actually in Florida for 9 months. So I was offered this very large amount of money for one of my companies. And I went to my accountant and I said, hey, what's this look like? He said, you're going to pay 45%. So this was hundreds of thousands of dollars that I was going to pay in taxes.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And I went, oh no, we're not doing this. Right. The same thing is true when you have a large amount of stock that's sitting there and you don't know whether to sell it or not, because you're going to have some tax liability. You're going to have some, right? This is where people come to you and go, hey, help. Okay. We need, tax advice. We need strategy. We need, right. All that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing that, because literally you work your entire life and you get to a place to where this company thinks so much of you that they award you this stock, right? And it's, 5,000 shares, whatever it is, it's a large amount. And if you go out and just go to your local broker and sell it, you're gonna hate life for a while, right? And so it's one of those things where people need to come see you and sit with you and at least just say, look, this is what I have. What do you think?
Right. How do I unwind this, or how do I manage it? Exactly right. Because especially if people are charitably inclined, there's a lot you can do with donor advised funds or charitable remainder trusts. So that's where it all starts. So that's what I was getting at. Someone that has a pain, even if they like their advisor, but they don't feel like they're getting this level of advice, or they don't even know what they're paying their advisor. That's another reason to come see us. Let's just, wherever that pain is, or that
pull the veil back, right?
Yes.
Open up the curtain and see where all that stuff is.
Yes. Yeah. And some circumstances might say, you know what, everything looks good. If you like your advisor, stick with them, and that's fine too. At least they're getting a second opinion.
Doesn't hurt. And one that's in their best interest.
Exactly.
You're legally bound to work in their best interest, right? That's the best thing about this.
Yep. And Mike, that's why we do the pro bono, because if somebody doesn't have enough money for us to properly diversify or manage, and it's not going to be good for them, then we'll say, look, it's not good for you. It's not in your best interest to work with us. But here are some other options that may be able to help you, and we'll kind of guide them in that direction. But that's where my team, we've taken a stance in that, because we're not trying to be Walmart here, one size fits all, because then I think the advice gets really watered down, and that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
We want to have impact. We want to have impact and enhance people's lives.
That's the exact opposite of why you started this 9 years ago. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so real quick question before we go. If somebody wants to get a copy of Retire Right, can they get it from Amazon?
They can, yep. So Retiring Right, Smart Steps for Exiting Corporate America is a long version. It's crazy, Mike. I've got an ebook, hardback, paperback, and I went to New York and there's an audio version too. I recorded it. So, which
I
is a lot of
love
fun.
that, by the way. That's one of my favorite things when an author actually records it with their own voice.
Yeah.
There's just something different than hiring an actor, a voice actor, to do it for you.
Yep. So super excited. It's me. And it's not easy, by the way.
No.
It's not easy, but it was good. I had a great coach or publisher or director, and she was really good and made it sound really good. So yeah, I love the ebooks out there too.
This is a running theme with you. It's integrity. Every time you turn, you're doing the thing that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep it solid. Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. Jake Falcon, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
Mike's been tons of fun. Thank you.
Appreciate you, bud. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.